As you've heard, my name is Cyrus Rogers, and I'm going to be talking you through leading in the winner's circle. Born at 29 weeks, 3 months early, a baby boy struggled for life. His mother, hoping for nothing more than the survival of her 1 kilogram baby. The boy pulled through. But then doctors spoke to the mother and said, there's still a chance that this boy might develop disabilities as he grows. She believed that he'd be fine and would go on to lead a normal life. What follows is a story unlike any other for mother and child. That baby, Wade van Niekerk, South Africa's miracle man who shook up the world, showing his immense talent and ability, showing that you can do whatever you want if you have the right belief, the training, and the leadership behind you. Wade's story is a story of leadership. The best coaches, the support of his mother, and the fulfillment of his promise.
So who's going to succumb to the adrenaline first? Van Niekerk is running blind on the outside and he's set off really quickly. These three are away and clear. Cedinho's tried to come back into it on the inside. And the short Merrick coming back and Karani James. But it's Van Niekerk leading at the moment. The South African now beginning to tire. Or is he? He's pulling away. It's an unbelievable victory by a huge margin. A century of history and 43.03. I can't believe it. He has obliterated Michael Johnson's world record. It was destined to be one of the great races and one of the great days.
I still get goosebumps watching that race. I don't know about you. Can you believe that was a year ago? And he's subsequently gone on to win another world championship and a silver medal at the World Champs. Wade's story is just an incredible one because it's about performance excellence, but it's also about leadership in action. There are two types of leadership that we see here. There's firstly self-leadership as Wade ran towards his dreams. And then there's team leadership from his coaches, support staff, and family. In South Africa, we have so many sporting stories. There are so many sporting heroes globally. People that we admire, people that we look up to. We can call them to mind, and I'd like you to do that. I'd like you to think about people who you admire. Sports heroes, sports stars, male, female, teams, coaches, people who have had an impact on you in one way, shape, or form. Then think about a word, and I want you to pinpoint that word that characterizes them. You'll find that it's so easy for us to pinpoint the words because we all understand what we're looking for. We're looking for the very same things in the leaders that we want. You know, sport plays a tremendous role in society today because it really is a mirror of every ideal we hold as the high watermark of humanity. It has the ability to unite us all in joy, but also in despair. I believe there are a couple of us who've been feeling this way after the Lions' loss. But South Africa in particular has had our history punctuated by so many different levels of sporting achievement. You think about Joel Stransky's drop goal, Mandela and Pienaar. You think about Bafana Bafana winning the Africa Cup of Nations, or Josiah Tungwane winning the first medal as a black South African, Caster Semenya, Wade van Niekerk. These are the South African stories, but the world is full of so many sporting success stories. In fact, sports and the sports market is one of the biggest and best global performers out there. They say that by the end of this year, the sports market alone will have earned $90.9 billion. The sports apparel market, just the jerseys, tops, socks, $171 billion is what they're expecting to earn by the end of next year. Those are incredible amounts. Forbes every year goes out and looks at individual sports teams. The Dallas Cowboys American football team is worth $4 billion. The first real football team on that list, Manchester United. I'm a Chelsea supporter. But they're worth $3.32 billion. To give you context, that's more than the GDP of Lesotho. That's equal to the GDP of Swaziland. It takes tremendous leadership to run these businesses, because essentially that's what they are. And we want to know that the leaders who are doing that are also the kind of leaders that can take everybody forward. When I think about what leadership means, it's about doing the simple things right. Often, we thrust people into leadership roles that they're not really cut out for. And we do it because we think they can do it. And not to say that they can't do the tasks, but the one thing that a leader does need to do is pull the team forward with them. And if you can't do that, you're not doing what you need to do. So in my research, I found that there are 5 key leadership aspects, and I'll talk you through 2 today. And the first one is something called perspicacity. And I'll tell a story to illustrate this. So in the 1970s, a man named Richard took some tennis lessons from an amateur called Old Whiskey. After those lessons, he thought, there's a future in this sport. So he went home, because he just fell in love with the game, and he started watching some TV. And on the TV was a woman named Virginia Ruzicki, a Czech woman. He saw her playing and he realized that there was a future in this sport, but he didn't see one in it for himself. He saw one in it for his kids. So what he did was he went to his room and wrote a 78-page plan for his kids' success. Now, who's going to go watch TV and then do that with their kids this evening? But having done that, he decided to coach his kids. They were both 4.5 when they reached that age. By the time his eldest was 10, a tennis scout saw her, and can you believe it, the entire family moved from Los Angeles all the way through to Florida for the kids' development. Needless to say, those kids have gone on to be something special. That's Venus and Serena Williams. In 1995, Richard realized that his kids had had such great potential, but they were starting to stagnate. So he decided to coach them himself, as every father does. But 4 years after deciding that, Serena goes on to win the US Open. And Venus, the very next year, in 2000, wins Wimbledon. Now that's perspicacity. Sitting down and writing a 78-page document for your kids' success, seeing a future that wasn't even on the horizon, but knowing that there was a gap in the market that could be filled. Richard was a person who definitely felt that he could see the bigger picture. Perspicacity is all about having acute mental vision and shrewdness, about seeing the goals before they're actually out there. It's also about goal setting and visualization. So I'd like you to do something. Imagine yourself right now, sitting in this room, and then picture yourself as the success that you envision in the future. And then that successful you starts to reminisce about all the steps that you've taken to get you to the very top. That's what perspicacity is. You also need to stay on track. Make sure that every single point that you are going on in your leadership journey is about the end goal, and keep touchstones along the way. Keep you focused. You have to be able to step back, see the bigger picture, get the bird's eye view of the on-field scenarios. Perspicacity isn't just about visualization, it's also about planning. Our next facet is doggedness. What is doggedness? Really, it's about determination. And it really goes back to a quote that I love from Dr. Orison Swett Marden, an American inspirational author who developed Success magazine in 1897. And it says, most men fail not through lack of education, but from lack of dogged determination, lack of dauntless will. That means going out there despite all of the travails. Doggedness really is multifaceted. It's about determination and tenacity. Determination is hammering a nail into a hard surface. Tenacity is knowing that you have to keep going through it. One of the people that I'd like to illustrate this is a gentleman by the name of Steph Curry. He's one of the biggest stars on the planet today. He plays in the NBA in the US. I've had a chance of interviewing him a few times. A very humble gentleman, but very driven. Steph Curry is 6'3", That's 1 meter 91. He's 86 kgs. In NBA terms, he's a small guy. He's my height. But he's been written off so many times by various coaches because they said there's a perceived lack of height. You might not be able to do what you need to do. Well, he's gone on and showed them something.
I'm the son of a 16-year NBA veteran. We never really struggled when I was growing up, thanks to my dad and his career. You would think that my future was set based on that fact. That could be farther from the truth. I was always the smallest kid on my team. Wasn't ranked, I wasn't highly touted as a high school prospect.
Only played in 26 of the 66 games last year because of injury.
He will come to the gym or go to the practice facility in the middle of the night.
He's gotten better month after month after month in every facet of the game.
Really unheard of. It speaks volumes to his work ethic and his desire to improve and be great. Curry splits the defense behind the back. Fires a three. Oh, he puts it in. Oh, my goodness. For the lead. Curry. What a move. They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
He's turned out to be better than anybody thought.
In my wildest dreams, did I ever think that he was going to be an MVP? The things that he's improved on, because he just wants to get better and better in so many areas.
And the dream season is now complete. The Golden State Warriors are the 2015 NBA champions. Their first title in 40 years.
I don't think I've reached my ceiling. I always feel like I can get better. Yeah, I still feel the same way on the court now like when I was a kid.
That's doggedness in action. His dad played the game for 16 years, and you would imagine that he'd just go out and become a success. But because he didn't have this size, he had to work harder than everybody else. Steph Curry did one thing that was really interesting. He's broken the three-point record numerous times. In 2013, it sat at 269, a record that he'd set. Last year, he blew by that and hit 402 three-pointers. It is the furthest shot you can make on a basketball court. Nobody had ever hit 300, but he went past that. That's dogged determination. Leadership is about pushing forward and always going for it when the going gets tough. We have to ask ourselves the questions. What keeps you determined to reach for your goals all the way through? Why are you pushing all the way through? Why is it that you need to reach that goal? It's about persistence and having the perspicacity of knowing what your vision is. Determination is also contagious. It's something that rubs off onto your teammates. If somebody sees you doing it, they think they can do it too. And then you can rope them in as well. Why don't we do this together? Why don't we work together? Determined leaders prove that anything can be done. Determination is the fuel for success. Thank you very much.